Okay, so once again, good day everyone. So for today, we're going to discuss about the IT infrastructure and emerging technologies. So in this lesson, right after this lesson, we will be able to answer or describe the components of IT infrastructure in detail. We could able to determine the stages and technical factors driving the development of IT infrastructure. Which computer hardware systems are now most in demand, and what are the most current trends in software platforms. So through the so since information technology infrastructure as the shared technological asset that serve as the foundation for the unique information system application used by the firm. So a firm or a firm's entire business units or the entire company may invest in hardware, software, and services, including consulting, training, and education as part of its IT infrastructure. So the cornerstone for a company's ability to serve consumers, collaborate with partners, and oversee internal business operation is its IT infrastructure. So when telecommunications, networking gear, and telecommunication services are taken into account, it is anticipated that the industry providing enterprise worldwide with IT infrastructure in 2012 actually will be worth 3.6 trillion, and this include the 400 billion US dollar in additional IT and related business process consulting services. So large companies driven by financial services organization whose IT investment is well over half of total capital investment, spend between 25 and 50% of their budgets on infrastructure investment. So to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter. Go ahead.
Thank you, Prof, for that introduction. Again, ulitin ko lang din yung sinabi ni Prof. When we talk about IT infrastructure, this would be about hardware, software, networking, consulting, and IT education. So yun yung mga components, overall components of the IT infrastructure. And aside from the IT infrastructure, we will be talking about emerging technologies. Ako, Donna May Villago, and Sir Minardo Talens Jr. will talk about these two subjects. Okay. So what is our subtopics for this said subject, IT infrastructure and emerging technologies? We would be talking about the infrastructure components in details, the contemporary hardware platform trends, and contemporary software platform trends and management issues by Sir Minard Talens. Classmates, naririnig po ako ng malinaw?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. So what are the infrastructure components? We have 7. We have the computer hardware platforms, our operating system platform, the enterprise software applications, our data management and storage. It would also include our networking and telecommunications platforms, internet platforms, and number 7, ito hindi masyado ding napag sa atin, basically parang nalalampasan, but this would be very important, the consulting and system services platforms. Again, as said earlier by Prof, by Dean, ang laki na nung industry na to. Most of us alam na rin ito. Kasi everyday ginagamit talaga natin din itong mga to. Even now, right now, as we are conducting our online classes. So, first, let's talk about the computer hardware platforms. By the name itself, ang binabanggit natin dito as part of the IT infrastructure is the computer hardware, yung nakikita natin, yung tangible na computer hardware platforms natin. So what are these? This component includes client machines. Ito na yung tinatawag na, ito na yung ating ginagamit na desktop PCs, our mobile computing devices such as netbooks and laptops, the server machines na nasa ating mga companies. All these, again, as pinanggit ni Prof, these are very much used right now. Alam natin yung the big names na gumagawa ng ating mga computer hardware, which is yung the IBM, HP, Dell, and Sun Microsystems. For the our chip producers, this includes Intel, AMD, and IBM. Again, these are large companies. Alam natin, very profitable companies because of our heavy use of computer hardware platforms as part of the IT infrastructure. Next, we have our operating system platforms. So what are these? In our term, ito yung ating mga software na ginagamit. So the operating system platforms include platforms for client computers. Operating systems are software that manage the resources and activities of the computer and act as an interface for the user. So alam nyo din to. What are our operating system platforms for our desktop or laptops? We have the Microsoft Windows. Examples would be our Windows 7, Windows Vista, or Windows XP. The older version would be our Unix and Linux. Yung mga nauna sa atin, siguro nagamit to. And of course, nandyan din yung ating the Google Chrome's operating system. Sa mga naka-Apple dyan, nandyan din yung iPhone, or mga naka-iPhone, nandyan na rin yung Apple's operating system. Next, IT infrastructure or component is our enterprise software applications. What are these? These include the so-called SAP, Oracle, and PeopleSoft, and middleware software that are used to link a firm's existing application systems. By the name itself, ang gumagamit nito yung mga enterprises, yung mga companies natin. Tinutukoy nito yung mga application systems na ginagamit natin sa ating mga kumpanya, which uses SAP, Oracle, PeopleSoft, and other middleware software. So what are examples or the types of enterprise software? Ito yung ating ginagamit sa HR, yung ating human resources management system, our payroll management, the customer support system, email marketing system, yung halimbawa sa atin, sa company natin, our document tracking system, and yung enterprise resource planning. Next, IT infrastructure component is our data management and storage. Data management and storage includes our enterprise data management software, which is responsible for organizing and managing the firm's data so that they can be efficiently accessed and used. Again, by the name itself, part of our IT infrastructure is the data management and storage. Pwede itong large scale. Sino yung producer of large scale data management storage systems? This includes the EMC Corporation. For us na small users, halimbawa, we have the PC hard disk manufacturers like, alam nyo to, meron nagtitinda nito sa Lazada, the Seagate, Maxtor, and Western Digital. This is one important right now part of the infrastructure, IT infrastructure component, our networking and telecommunications platforms. So what are the examples of yung networking hardware providers? Dito na pumapasok si Cisco, Alcatel-Lucent, Nortel, Jupiter Networks. Kasama din sa networking and telecommunication platforms yung ating mga tinatawag na LAN, local area network, And syempre, papasok na rin dito yung ating internet, the TCP/IP protocol suite as standard. Next, we have the internet platforms. Overlap with and must relate to the firm's general networking infrastructure and hardware and software platforms. Internet-related infrastructure includes the hardware, software, and services to maintain corporate websites, intranets, and extranets, including web hosting services and web software application development tools. A web hosting service maintains a large web server or series of servers and provides fee-paying subscribers with space to maintain their websites. So ito, again, gamit na gamit sa atin ito ngayon, our internet platforms. Next is the consulting and system integration services. So usually, yung yung evolution ng IT natin, meron kasi tayong tinatawag na legacy system. So, there are IT consulting firms, hindi kasi pwede minsan yung tinatawag nating incompatible. So, minsan when we change systems, platforms, or hardwares, kailangan may nako-consult, meron sinasabi natin may mga nakakapag-consult tayo para malaman kung compatible ba sila, and even yung sa pag-educate and pag-upgrade ng ating mga manpower. So we have leading IT consulting firms like Accenture, IBM Global Services, HP Enterprise Services, Infosys, and Wipro Technologies. So we have the so-called software integration, which means ensuring the new infrastructure works with the firm's older, the so-called legacy systems, and ensuring the new elements of the infrastructure work with one another. Ito kasi yung sa atin na yun, medyo mabigat. Minsan hindi tayo makapagpalit ng system. Sasabihin natin dinosaur age pa yung ating system sa ating company. And ito yung isa sa important ngayon, yung system. May mga bagong technologies na lumalabas. However, minsan the company is so invested in their old or legacy system, even yung mga tao sanay na doon. So we have the IT consulting firms to help the company with that. And also important, dapat talaga pinaglalaanan yung integration of the old to the new. So again, the 7, pasadahan ko lang ulit, the 7 infrastructure components na isa-isa natin. We have our hardware platform, operating system platform, enterprise software applications, our data management and storage, our networking and telecommunication platforms, our internet platforms, and our consulting and system services platforms. Now let's go to the second topic, which is ano yung mga bagong trends? What are the contemporary hardware platform trends? There are 2 kinds of trends. Again, we have the hardware platform trends and software platform trends. Let's first look at the hardware platform trends. Ano ba yung mga nangyayari ngayon sa ating mga hardwares? The emerging mobile digital platform, nauuso ang grid computing, virtualization, cloud computing, green computing, autonomic computing, and high performance and power saving processors. So isa-isahin ulit natin. We have the emerging mobile digital platform. This is very much true to us. In a few years, smartphones, netbooks, and tablet computers will be the primary means of accessing the internet, with business computing moving increasingly from PCs and desktop machines to our mobile devices. So nakikita natin to, most of our smartphones, netbooks, and tablets, nagiging mas powerful na sila, kaya na nila web browsing, other functions ng desktop natin in PCs, nagagawa na nila. And because this is very nakikip sa pocket, nakikip sa ating mga bags, very accessible anytime na kailangan. So, yun nagiging trend na yun. So, from PCs to desktop machines to our mobile devices. In the case of halimbawa, sa opisina ngayon, nauuso na rin yung, kasi sasama sa mobile yung ating mga laptop PCs, no? So nauuso man na ngayon yung isang desk, pero iba-iba yung workers, employees sa isang desk. Kinukuha lang yung laptop. Dala ni employee yung laptop sa kanyang desk. If tapos na yung kanyang shift, may isa na namang employee using the same desk in that company. Tapos siya naman yung sa shift na yun dun sa oras na yun. So it saves the company extra money kasi lumiliit yung kanyang workspace na babayaran. Next, we have grid computing. Grid computing utilizes the either computational resources of separate geographically remote computers to create a single virtual supercomputer. In this process, a server computer breaks data and applications into discrete chunks that are parceled out to the grid's machines. Grid computing offers increased cost savings, computational speed, and agility. So classmates, ang ibig lang sabihin nito, may mga computers that are geographically magkakasama naman sila, although remote, iba-iba, and they are combined to create a single virtual supercomputer. Kasi most of the time, yung mga remote computers natin, sinasabi, hindi fully na-utilize, almost parang mga 25% lang nung kanyang computing or processing power yung nagagamit pag ginamit natin sila singly. But when they are combined through grid computing, nakaka-create ng single virtual supercomputer and na-utilize sila ng inam up to 70%. Next, we have virtualization. So this is different and almost the same as grid computing. But what specifically is virtualization? Virtualization is the process of presenting a set of computing resources, such as computing power or data storage, so that they can all be accessed in ways that are not restricted by physical configuration or geographic location. Server virtualization enables companies to run more than one operating system at the same time on a single machine. Most servers run at just 10 to 15% of capacity, and virtualization can boost server utilization rates to 70% or higher. Again, grid computing, mapapansin nyo, geographically remote computers. So, but in di magkakasama geographically, pwede natin samahin. Computers as one, and mas napapakinabangan natin yung ating mga computers through virtualization. Nagagawa ito because of because of our mataas na internet speed, and yung mataas na capacity na niya. So we also have cloud computing. Usong-uso din to Alam ko, alam to ng iba kong classmates, especially yung mga 20-something dyan, 30-something pa lang. So cloud computing is in which firms and individuals obtain computer processing, storage, software, and other services as a pool of virtualized resources over a network, primarily the internet. These resources are made available to users based on their needs, irrespective of their physical location or the location of the users themselves.
Oo, si Mrs. sa CR. Mukhang nadumi na siya sa wakas.
So cloud computing, again, yung software, even in cloud computing, again, ginagamit natin to. So ano ba yung mga certain very basic example of cloud computing? Ito yung mga Google services natin na nagagamit natin. So virtually, nagagamit natin yung isang resources over a network through which primarily is the internet. So ano yung mga Google services na cloud computing services, yung ating Drive, the Google Workspace actually. So there are 3 different types of cloud services. So cloud infrastructure as a service, customers use processing, storage, networking, and other computing resources from cloud service providers to run their information systems. Then we have cloud platform as a service. Customers use infrastructure and programming tools hosted by the service provider to develop their own applications. And number 3, cloud software as service. Customers use software hosted by the vendor on the vendor's hardware and delivered over a network. So all these nagagawa through cloud. We also have 2 types of cloud, the public cloud and the private cloud. By the term itself, public means accessible to all, and when private, there's just a certain set of people or computers that uses the cloud system. So public cloud, maintained by an external service provider such as Amazon's Web Services, access through the internet and available to the general public. While a private cloud is a proprietary network or data center that ties together servers, storage, networks, data, and applications as a set of virtualized services that are shared by users inside the company. Next hardware trend is yung green computing or green IT. When you say green, syempre, it mostly refers to the environment. So green computing or green IT refers to practices and technologies for designing, manufacturing, using, and disposing of computers, servers, and associated devices such as monitors, printers, storage devices, and networking and communication systems to minimize the impact on the environment. And isa ding hardware trend sa green computing or green IT yung pag-reduce ng computer power consumption. Yan. So ito yung mostly ginagawa ng mga companies ngayon. And ito din yung isa sa mga goal ng mga computer manufacturer. Yung konti lang yung nako-consume na electricity, halimbawa ng ating mga computers. Aside from those, kasi pagka yung mga mainframes natin, usually umiinit yan eh. So, kailangan malamig yung room. So, isa yun dun sa kanilang pinagtutuunan ngayon, yung paggawa ng mga computer hardware natin na hindi masyadong umiinit, hindi masyadong kailangan ng energy or electricity to cool the room. Also, isa din sa pinagtutuunan, kasi pag nagpalit tayo ng mga computers, ng ating mga hardwares, Syempre, may mga chips yan, may mga tawag doon, hindi chemicals may mga materials yan or metals na tinitingnan na rin how to properly dispose of the our old IT hardware. Yun. Para na rin yung sa mga hospitals, diba, bawal basta-basta mag-dispose of yung ating mga syringes. Parang gano'n. And then, isa sa mga trends din, hardware trend, is the autonomic computing. What is autonomic computing? It is an industry-wide effort to develop systems that can configure themselves, optimize and tune themselves, heal themselves when broken, and protect themselves from outside intruders and self-destruction. In essence, sinasabi lang nito na isang trend ngayon, hardware trend ngayon, yung ating computers na smart talaga, so they can tune themselves, heal themselves, or protect themselves from outside intruders and self-destruction. However, one very popular example nito yung nag-auto virus check yung ating mga computer ngayon para sa to protect themselves. Last trend sa ating hardware trend is the high performance and power saving processors. Another way to reduce power consumption and hardware sprawl is to use more efficient and power saving processors. Contemporary microprocessors now feature multiple cores on a single chip. So ito yung usong-uso ngayon pag bumili tayo ng mga ating mga laptops, mga PCs. Ilang core ba yan? Di ba yung Intel? Yung core ano ba yan? For mga ganun. So again, isa sa trend ngayon yung pag-invent na ating high performance and power saving processors. So that's it for IT infrastructure and emerging technologies, part 1. The next reporter would be Sir Minardo Talens. Thank you.
Okay, so actually, based on what our presenter mentioned about operating system, so as of today, one of the latest operating systems is the Windows 11, The biggest changes and new features, of course, wondering what's new in Windows 11 and whatever it's worth upgrading, we've been using it for actually my new laptop now we're using Windows 11, So drastic redesigns of Windows have proven disastrous for Microsoft in the past, Windows 8, the worst case in point, But after testing Windows 11, for myself, I found out that the interface looks quite different. It doesn't take long to figure out how things work. And as each introduction event, Microsoft Chief Product and Officer, of course, expressed a desire not to alienate long-time Windows aficionados, and that's a good thing. Despite that goal of keeping it familiar, there's plenty of innovation in Windows 11 actually. So the new operating system started rolling out as an upgrade to PC on October 4, 2021 actually ng Windows 11. So before taking the plunge to upgrade, you should first determine whether your PC can run Windows 11. And the rollout will last through mid-2022 according to Microsoft, as the MyRAD PC hardware and software configurations are validated for compatibility. So keep an eye on PC Mag's Windows 11 page, for related tips and news. Now, again, if you wanted to, if you have a Windows 11 operating system right now, some of their changes, the taskbar icon, in the taskbar icon are now centered, smaller like a Chrome OS, but the start button is still to the left of the other app icon. So Windows get tightly rounded corners similar to Mac OS. I'm still not a fan of the always narrow taskbar button. In Windows 10, you get wide taskbar buttons or running apps that contrast that with narrow icons for pin apps. No, the centered look may win me over. No, however, since it doesn't require you to move the mouse cursor across a full screen to launch an app from the start menu. Okay. Even the widgets now of Windows 11, no, widgets are making a comeback. No, Apple bolster widget in OS 14 and iPad OS 15, and Microsoft doubled in bringing back desktop widgets in the news and interest panel in Windows 10. But Windows 11 widgets further the idea. So the new widgets deliver a personalized feed of news, weather, traffic, no, sports, and stock market data. So powered by artificial intelligence for customization and edge, no, for rendering. And even for yung snap layout, no, meron na rin silang additional snap layout. And what else? Photo apps, no, in Windows 11. So the photo app in Windows 11 is a sleeper in that it's remarkably capable not only for organizing and editing photos, but also for video editing with titles, transition, effects, and more. So the Photos app, no, include face recognition, auto-generated albums, and integrated maps, no, for photos with location data. So features that even some paid photo applications lack. No, new for photos is an edge-to-edge photo view, no, multi-image view, and improved cropping interface along with the fluent design updates. Ang kagandahan lang talaga ng Windows 11, let's say, ginamit mo yung face recognition, no? Pwedeng kapag hindi na nakakita ng camera, ng built-in camera yung face mo, automatic nag-off yung screen, no? Naglalak siya. Then kapag once na bumalik na ulit yung face mo, automatic siya ma-open, no? So ang ganda talaga ng Windows 11 actually. Okay na po. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Donna, for enlightening us on the latest contemporary trends in hardware platforms. For the contemporary software platform trends, we have Linux and open source software, Java and Ajax, web services and service-oriented architecture, and software outsourcing and cloud services. Open source software is software produced by a community of several hundred thousand programmers around the world. It is free and can be modified by users. Works derived from the original code must also be free, and the software can be redistributed by the user without additional licensing. It is not restricted to any specific operating system or hardware technology. Popular open source software tools include Linux operating system, Mozilla Firefox web browser, and Oracle OpenOffice, an inexpensive alternative to Microsoft Office. Linux is the most well-known open source software, an operating system related to Unix. It was created by the Finnish programmer Linus Torvalds and first posted on the internet in 1991. Linux applications are widely used in cell phones, netbooks, and other consumer electronics. It is a major force in local area networks, web servers, and other high-performance computing work. Java is an operating system-independent, processor-independent, object-oriented programming language that is now the leading interactive environment for the web. It's created by James Gosling and the Green Team at Sun Microsystems in 1992. Java has migrated into cellular phones, automobiles, music players, game machines, and cable television systems serving interactive content and PPV or pay-per-view services. Java is designed to run on any computer or computing device regardless of the specific microprocessor or operating system the device uses. Ajax is short for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. It is a web development technique for creating web applications. Ajax allows a client and server to exchange small pieces of data behind the scenes so that an entire web page does not have to be reloaded every time there is a change. It makes the user experience faster and more seamless. Web services refers to a set of loosely coupled software components that exchange information with each other using universal communication standards and languages. They can exchange information between two different systems regardless of the operating system or programming languages which the systems are based. The foundation technology for this uses XML, which stands for Extensible Markup Language. This language was developed in 1996 by the Worldwide Consortium, or W3C. Web services communicate through XML messages over standard web protocols. Everyone shares the same standards. Service-oriented architecture, or SOA, is a set of self-contained services that communicate with each other to create a working software application. Business tasks are accomplished by executing a series of these services. Software developers reuse these services and other combinations to assemble other applications as needed. Almost all major software vendors provide tools and entire platforms for building and integrating software applications using web services. Software outsourcing enables a firm to contract custom software development or maintenance of existing legacy programs to outside firms which often operate offshore in lower wage areas of the world. Offshore outsourcing firms have provided lower level maintenance, data entry, and call center operations. For example, in March 2008, Royal Dutch Shell, the world's third largest oil producer, signed a 5-year, $4 billion outsourcing deal with T-Systems International, AT&T, and EDS, or Electronic Data Systems. This has helped Shell cut costs and focus on systems that improve its competitive position in the oil and gas market. Cloud-based software and its data are hosted on powerful servers in massive data centers and can be accessed with an internet connection and web browser. In the past, software such as Microsoft Word or Adobe Illustrator came in a box and was designed to operate on a single machine. Today, these same software may be downloaded from the vendor's website, or they may be used through the cloud service delivered over the internet. Enterprise software and other complex business functions are available as services from the major commercial software vendors. Subscribing companies rent these services and are provided remotely as a web-based service. What are the management issues in dealing with platform and infrastructure change? As firms grow, they often quickly outgrow their infrastructure. As firms shrink, they can get stuck with excessive infrastructure purchased in better times. Scalability refers to the ability of a computer, product, or system to expand to serve a large number of users without breaking down. Firms using mobile computing and cloud computing platforms will require new policies and procedures for managing these platforms. They will need to inventory all their devices in use and develop policies and guidelines for tracking, dating, and securing them, and for controlling the data and applications that run on them. What are the management issues regarding management and governance? A long-standing issue among MIS managers and CEOs has been the question of who will control and manage the firm's IT infrastructure. Should departments and divisions have the responsibility of making their own IT decisions, or should it be centrally controlled and managed? How will infrastructure costs be allocated among business units? These are just some of the questions and issues each organization will need to arrive and answer based on its own needs. What are the management issues when it comes to making wise infrastructure investments? IT infrastructure is a major investment for the firm. How much should the firm spend on infrastructure? Should the firm purchase and maintain its own IT infrastructure components or rent them from external suppliers? Cloud computing may be a low-cost way to increase scalability and flexibility, but firms should evaluate this option carefully in light of security requirements. In some instances, the cost of renting software adds up to more than purchasing and maintaining an application in-house. What is the total cost of ownership of technology assets? The total cost of owning technology resources includes the original cost as well as ongoing administration costs for hardware and software upgrades, maintenance, technical support, training, and even real estate costs for housing the technology. The total cost of ownership, or TCO, for a PC might run up to 3 times the original purchase of the equipment. Hardware and software costs account for only about 20% of TCO. So managers must pay close attention to administration costs to understand the full cost of the firm's hardware and software. Companies could reduce the size of the IT staff required to support their infrastructure if the firm minimizes the number of different computer models and software that employees are allowed to use. The competitive forces model for IT infrastructure investment. Market demand for your firm's services. Are customers complaining of slow responses to their queries about price and availability? Are employees complaining about the difficulty of finding the right information for the jobs? Your firm's business strategy. Analyze your firm's 5-year business strategy and try to assess what new services and capabilities will be required to achieve strategic goals. Your firm's IT strategy, infrastructure, and cost. Examine your firm's IT plans for the next 5 years and assess its alignment with corporate business plans. Determine the total IT infrastructure costs. Perform a TCO analysis. Information technology assessment. Is your firm behind the technology curve or at the bleeding edge of information technology? Both extreme situations are to be avoided. It is not desirable to spend resources on advanced technology that are still experimental, expensive, and sometimes unreliable. Competitor firm services. Establish quantitative and qualitative measures to compare with competitors' technology services being offered to customers, suppliers, and employees. Look for ways your firm can excel at service levels. Competitor firm IT infrastructure investments. Benchmark expenditures for IT infrastructure against your competitors. Many companies are quite public about their innovative expenditures on IT. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so as what our presenter mentioned, presenters mentioned, what exactly is IT infrastructure and what makes it up, no? So to sum up, no, IT infrastructures, no, refers to the shared technological asset, no, that serve as the foundation for the particular information system application used by the company. So shared hardware, software, and services make up the IT infrastructure for the entire company. Platforms, no, for computer hardware, platforms for operating system, platforms for enterprise software, platforms for networking and telecommunications, platforms for database management software, platforms for the internet consulting services, and platforms for system integrators are some of the key elements of IT infrastructure. Now, what are the spaces, no, and technological forces influencing the evolution of IT infrastructure? The mainframe era, the personal computer era, and the client server era, the enterprise computing era, and the cloud and mobile computing era are the 5 eras of IT infrastructure evolutions. No? So, according to Moore's law, which deals with the exponential rise, no, in the processing power and drop in the cost of computer technology, no, microprocessor powers doubles and computing costs are cut in half every 18 months. So, the law of mass digital storage states that the amount of kilobytes of data that can be stored on magnetic media for $1 about doubles every 15 months, and deals with the exponential decrease in the cost of storing data. So, a network's worth to participants increases exponentially with the addition of new members, no, as demonstrated by Metcalfe's law. No? So the exponential growth in computer use is also fueled, no, by the sharp drop in communication costs and the expanding acceptance of computing in communication standards in the technology sector. So, what are the most popular platforms for computer hardware right now? No? So our presenter shade, no? More and more people are using mobile digital platforms for computing. So, in order to construct a computational grid that combines the computing capacity of all the computers on the network, grid computing entails integrating geographically dispersed computers into a single network. So, computing resources are organized through virtualization so that their utilization is not contained by their physical state or location. Instead of buying and installing the hardware and software on their own computers, cloud computing allows businesses and individuals to access computing power and software as services across, no, a network, including the internet. So, a microprocessor with 2 or more processing cores added for improved performance, no, is referred to as a multi-core processor. Minsan kasi meron nating multi-core kasi yung processor ko. So, in order to limit a detrimental influence on the environment, green computing methods and technologies are used in the production, use, and disposal of information technology gear. So, computer systems have the ability to automatically configure and repair themselves in autonomous computing. Meron tayong power-saving processor, significantly lower the amount of power used by the portable digital devices. Now, since we already identify, no, the hardware, how about, or what are the most recent software platform trends? As what Sir mentioned earlier, a large community of programmers from around the world creates and maintains open source software. Sabi nga ni Sir kanina, Linux, no? Which is frequently available for the pre-download. Again, Linux is a robust, no, open source operating system that can operate on a variety of hardware platforms and is frequently used to power web servers. And the most popular interactive programming environment for the web is Java, or Java, a programming language that is independent of hardware and operating system. So web services are a type of loosely linked software that can be used with an operating system and application software because they are built on open web standards. So they can use to interconnect the various systems of a single firm as or as part, no, of web-based applications that connect the systems of two distinct enterprises. So businesses are acquiring their new software applications, no, from outside sources such as software packages by outsourcing custom application development to an outside vendor, no, who may be located in other country, or by renting online software services katulad ng SaaS na tinatawag natin. To generate new software applications and services, mash apps mixed to unique software services. Meron tayong mga tinatawag na apps, no? Apps are brief pieces of software that can be downloaded from the internet and executed on a computer, a mobile device, or both. No? Lahat ngayon puro naka-apps na siya at available na siya sa desktop, available na siya sa ating mobile device. Now, what are the difficulties in managing IT system and infrastructure? Kasi let's say, maybe somebody are asking, we are not techie, no? Our company are technically challenged with the available hardware and software. Again, making good infrastructure investment, managing and governing infrastructure, and dealing with platform and infrastructure change are major problems. So, the total costs of ownership of information technology assets should be established and solution criteria should be used to determine how much to spend on IT infrastructure and where to make strategic infrastructure investment. The overall costs of owning technology resources comprises not only the initial price of computer hardware and software, but also expenditures for maintenance, technical support, and training, as well as cost for hardware and software upgrades. Kasi nga, sabi ko nga, right now, Windows 11 na, no? Yung mga ganon. Okay? So I think that's it for IT infrastructure topic.